Riley saying some guys were going to look for better opportunities elsewhere. Mayberry, I'm willing to bet he was not thinking that Trey Sermon was one of those folks.
Yeah, he did not seem like that was a true statement, that he knew that was going to happen.
No, not at all. And to see Trey Sermon go into the transfer portal and out to Ohio State tells you one of two things. The first is Oklahoma is now left with just one running back on its roster that has rushed for over 1,000 yards in his career at OU. Also means that your second best tailback, at least on paper right now, is Ramondre Stevenson. With Ramondre Stevenson being your second best tailback on paper right now and having just 515 yards rushing, you also need to add in there, my man is probably suspended for the first 5 games of the 2020 season, which means that you immediately go from Kennedy Brooks to TJ Pledger, who has not shown just yet that he is ready to take even the role of the counterbalance to Kennedy Brooks, the way that Trey Sermon was able to do as a true freshman and a sophomore. From TJ Pledger, you hope to go to Marcus Major, but who knows what's going on with his shoulder, because he hasn't been right since he got to Oklahoma. Then you add in there a true freshman in Seth McGowan, who I think can be great, but who you certainly want to have the benefit of the red shirt here. Continue to say this. It will always be true. You can never have enough running backs. It's just not possible. Meanwhile, Trey Sermon answers the biggest question left for Ohio State at this point. What is their running back situation going to look like? Because yes, you lost a 2,000-yard rusher and probably a guy that wins the Heisman in a normal year in J.K. Dobbins to the NFL draft. Folks have thought that he looks a lot like Doug Martin. But you also had Master Teague and Marcus Crowley. Master Teague was third team All Big Ten, even backing up J.K. Dobbins, which is really difficult to do, averaging about 6 yards per carry. But he blew out his Achilles the first day of spring practice at Ohio State. You already knew you were going to be without third-string running back Marcus Crowley for the spring football situation because he was recovering from injury. So they were going to go with Steel Chambers until pandemic. Now you're going into the summer as Ohio State going, man, we really need a bell cow running back because we don't expect to have Master Teague. Marcus Crowley might be that guy, but if he's not that guy, we don't want to have to lean on Steel Chambers or our true freshman. I wonder if we can go to the portal. Well, we would like to get a guy who's going to be eligible right away. Enter Trey Sermon, who averaged about 6 yards per carry. Over 2,400 total yards at Oklahoma, 25 touchdowns. You also have to think about what led him to go this route. You have to think about what was it that just didn't get said, either during the season after he got hurt against Iowa State or when DeMarco Murray came in, because something needed to be said. I don't think that there was anything untoward. I do think, however, Trey Sermon might have got lost in the wash as you're trying to build what you think is a better 2020 football team. I also think this is a byproduct of Jalen Hurts. Because while the man rushed for doggone near 1,300 yards, probably didn't need to do that. He probably didn't need to pass for 3,800 yards. Probably could have got it done with less than that. But also, getting the running backs involved is very important. Mayberry, you watch Any Given Sunday.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Do you remember when Dennis Quaid, Jack Rooney, says to Willie Beeman, Jamie Foxx?
Cap.
Yeah, Cap. He says to Jamie Foxx, you better feed Julian because you don't get him a touch on this series, he's going to fold. So they get him a touchdown. They keep him in the game for late when they're going to need him as a battering ram. I don't think anybody was stroking Trey Sermon. I think between the last 3 games of the season that he played, he got 9 carries. He never got more than 11 in a game, and that was the opener against Houston. He was never allowed to be the counterbalance to Kennedy Brooks that he was in 2018 and even in 2017 to close out games because they tried to hand that over to Ramondre Stevenson, even as that dude put the ball on the ground. I think that Trey Sermon, all 6'2", 220 pounds of him, is a Le'Veon Bell type of player. I think that he could have just as easily been in the position that Brooks is in right now had he been given the opportunity. I think that if he had the chance to go from Oklahoma to Ohio State and he is graduated, that he should do just that, and I want him to go eat. But I also think that really speaks to how Jalen Hurts coming into your situation really mucked it up. Like, I understand folks that might tell you that Lincoln Riley bringing in Jalen Hurts was a win because they won a Big 12 championship and they made the college football playoff for a third time. I don't think so. I think you messed with the psyche of your football team. I think you messed with the chemistry of your football team. I think you brought in a Merc who was there for 1 year that you were gambling on could win you a national championship because he had been able to do it at another place. It's a gamble that a lot of people would have taken. It's a gamble that a lot of people think actually paid off in some way. I'm not one of them, and you're seeing now what the fallout of that looks like. You're seeing now what it looks like to have a guy come through, do it his way, and go on about his business. So much so that Lincoln Riley says, yes, we fielded transfer requests this season, but we're not doing that. I feel good about the two guys in the room. So you feel better about Tanner Mordecai than you do Austin Kendall? I highly doubt it, Lincoln. I highly doubt it. You wanted to keep that kid in the worst way because you knew if things went bad, you wanted to be able to lean on Austin Kendall. And Kendall said, no, I backed up Baker Mayfield. I backed up Kyler Murray. I am not backing up Jalen Hurts. You want to know how Austin Kendall feels about this situation? Go to the end of Oklahoma stomping a mud hole in West Virginia 52-14 and walking it dry, same game where the schooner tips over. And you can see Lincoln Riley's trying to hug him. Austin Kendall is having none of it. I think that is a personification of where OU football is at right now. And you needed spring practice in the worst way to try to reassure your football team, to try to wrap your arms around this 2020 football team, for which I'm beginning to believe if you go 12-2 again, you count your blessings. You win a 6th straight Big 12 championship, you count your blessings. Otherwise, it's going to be a rocky 2020 if it isn't already a rocky 2020.